do the ID, then I'll do that with you.
This is WCLN 1170 in Clinton, North Carolina. Welcome to Tika Talks, as she touches on everyday topics and issues in our lives, encouraging and uplifting. And now, without further ado, introducing Tika Talks.
Hello, everybody. What's going on? Hope your last week was good, and hopefully this week will be amazing, even better than last week. So today we're going to touch base on the spirit of offense. How easily are you offended? You know, sometimes unintentionally people may say or do something to you and you take offense to that. For instance, you may have someone who has a new friend. This is your friend, but now they have someone else in their circle. And you're upset and you think the friendship is not the same or it should end. But why? You know, churches, families, friends, just taking offense to any and everything all the time. Sometimes people are not trying to offend you. Sometimes they are simply trying to help you and telling the truth. However, you're not receptive to that because you're not ready for change. We have to check our own selves as it relates to being offended so easily. That's not something someone else can do for you. It's something you have to do for yourself. And so if you find that everything everybody does always seems like an attack on you, there's likely a problem. And so that's something you're going to need to address because it's starting with you. You're going to need to pray about it, and you're going to need to ask God to help you to overcome the enemy as it manifests in your life in such a negative way. So say, you know, let me give you an example of a time that I took great offense to something that in retrospect I realized it was truly meant to help me, and which it did at a later date, but I didn't see it at the moment in which it was said. So there was a woman who worked with me, and she was like a spiritual mother, really. Not initially, because I gave her a hard time and I was terrible back then, but you know, God delivers. So she was talking to me one day and she said, "Tamika, you are a reflection of what you attract." And I was like, okay, no, I'm not. She was like, yes, you are. You know, the people that come to you or that are talking to you or the relationships that you get involved in, that person is a reflection of who you are. And for some reason, I was not receptive of that. You know, I was very offended. Almost where I didn't even want to be talking to her or be in the same room with her afterward. That's the spirit of offense. So as I grew and as I matured in Christ, I realized that that was the absolute truth. She didn't say it in a negative way. She did not come at me, you know, with a dirty tone, which, okay, sometimes we do need to check our tone, because when you go to deliver something to someone, you need to deliver it in the right way, in a loving way. And you can't come off any kind of way and expect someone to be receptive, especially if you're coming off in a negative tone every single time you go to speak to people to correct them or constructively criticize them, depending on what's going on. Either way, I came to realize that what she said was the truth, but sometimes we're not open to the truth. Even when we know that that's the case, we still want to deny that that is exactly what it is. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She wasn't trying to offend me. And when she came forth, she did it in a very loving manner. I needed it then, but I didn't receive it right then. So I continued on in my destructive journey to later realize God brought it back to my remembrance. That day that, you know, hey, Miss Rochelle, told you that you were a reflection of what you attract, it was the absolute truth. Right. So as I began to change, because I did, of course, receive that later, and I even had a conversation with her later to let her know I really appreciated her stepping in and telling me those things that she's told me, because she was being obedient to God, even though she may not have wanted to share that with me because of my nasty attitude at the time. So sometimes people will step in and know that you're going to be negative or know that you're going to take offense because God is telling them to share something with you. So we need to start praying about our spirits, about our personalities, about the paths that we are taking, and to learn how to not be offended over everything that everyone says all the time. If you see a status on Facebook or on social media, period, it doesn't necessarily mean that status is geared towards you. Yet somehow people will take it as a subliminal post, and it manifests into this great disagreement, this big argument, these, just total nastiness going back and forth, sometimes even leading to physical altercations, which resolve absolutely nothing. We have to do better. We have to be better. And so, learning to take that to God in prayer so that I may not be offended by everything everyone says all the time. And if you catch that you are being offended by something that people say or something that someone does, learn to go to pray about that instead of trying to contact other people and get their input on it, especially if those people are negative. Sometimes we are just mixed with the wrong people, and they don't give godly counsel. So they encourage you to be the worst you. They encourage you to be negative and do negative things. And whenever you're in trouble, where are they? Then the people who were trying to get you to do right, the people who were praying for you every day, the ones who you took great offense to anything that came out of their mouth, those are the ones available to you in your darkest time, in the time of trouble, in your time of need. You have to depend on the ones you treated the worst. So it's time to wake up, and it's time to recognize that the spirit of offense is a great attack. And we have to be ready and willing to change and go in a different direction. Like I said, whenever you're speaking to someone, we have to understand that there's a certain way to speak to other people. You cannot talk any kind of way and expect someone to be receptive and, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'm going to change. Well, that makes perfect sense. Not if you are coming off, pointing your finger, talking down, belittling the individual. That is not the way in which God expects us to connect and function and assist other people. It doesn't work that way. You're not called to be ugly in that way. That's just the truth. So take some time to recognize, how do I speak to people? Why, when I go to say something to somebody, they're always offended? Is it me? Do I need to check my own self in the way that I choose to deliver the messages that I'm trying to deliver? Because it's never my intention, and probably not the people who are, offending others. It's not always their intention to be offending you. But you have to also forgive. When you realize that, something took place and you weren't, receptive, or you became angry, or you were hurt, or you felt betrayed, whatever the case may be, then you also have to choose to forgive the person, which, we already touched on that. But I can just reiterate that, it's a big deal to harbor unforgiveness. And so when you are offended by something, you're likely going to be, needing to forgive the person for the offense. You understand? So take some time to truly get into your prayer closet and talk to God regarding the things that have offended you. Because some of those things date back a very long time ago, and you're still angry about it. You are still offended, and you are still distant or disconnected because of what someone said or done to you, even if it was as a child. Perhaps you were the black sheep. They exist. People treat you differently in families, so even in school, whatever the case. But was it a teacher who said something to you that you just didn't get over? Was it a family member, a parent, a sibling, whatever the case? It's time to be better. It's time to move forward. It's time to let it go. Was it at your church? I could just probably go on and on, because there's so many things that I witness and I know that people get offended by. And sometimes I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I take offense to some things. Not a whole lot, because God is good at it. He definitely delivered me in that area. delivered from people. So it's a little easier when you realize that God is everything. And although you have to deal with people all the time, every opinion is not necessarily something that has to matter to you. So I'm just saying, check your tone. Try to be offended less. Think about what the people are saying when they say it, especially if it's coming from a loving standpoint. And, an example of that is when parents are trying to guide their children, lost children, children who are suffering from the world, the things of the world, and the behaviors and the things that have sucked them in, and they begin to misbehave or begin to be disrespectful and embarrassed in their families. We have to take a stand and do better. Speaking better, being better examples, and trying to get our children on track. Take them back from the enemy. The devil is a lie, and he does not have any rights. So don't be upset when your kids are offended by what you're saying as you try to guide them. Continue to try to guide them. Continue to love them. And continue to push that goodness deep down on the inside of them. Because it's going to come back up. And if you can't figure out what is going on with you or why you are struggling in the area of being offended and everything is always, an attack on you, then you need to pray and ask God to bring to surface that thing that occurred in your life that makes this relevant, that makes the spirit of offense still very active in your life. You need to pray and ask God to bring that to surface because you need to know. And then once you realize what it is, then you need to give it to God and you need to let it go. And there comes forgiveness right behind. You got to let it go in entirety. Stop suffering because you choose to not let things go or because you see things the wrong way. And we're all different. And I get that we have to experience different things in order to be who we become, in order to function in our gifts, in order to be living out our purpose. There are some experiences that are necessary to have. And it could be just that, me having that encounter with Miss Rochelle and realizing, although I took great offense to what she said, I later understood how relevant and how real she was being. And it was a loving thing. It wasn't like, she was trying to hurt me, as I stated before. So focus on the goodness and try to be different. Try to be better. And continue praying more than anything at this time in our lives. And for those who you see suffering, struggling, or even enduring the dark time where they are suffering with the spirit of offense or depression, sadness, whatever it may be. We have to be more compassionate. We have to function more in love, y'all. People are missing the mark and they're doing everything in a hateful manner, speaking in a hateful manner, posting things in a hateful manner. Hate does not win. It does not. It's not doing anything for you. So I'm going to leave y'all with all of that for this week. I am praying for you. I hope you guys continue to pray for me. Do what you do best, and that is being you. I absolutely love you. That's about it.
Okay, give a shout out to your family, your mother, your kids.
Today's shout out goes to my dad, Stanley Marable. I love you. I hope you've had a great week or the week to come. He don't get to tune in much, y'all. He got to upgrade on his electronic device. Okay.
Your mama, how's she doing?
She doing good.
Okay, you tell her.
Hey, Constance Solace.
Hey, Constance. You gotta get a shout out. Your husband, the cameraman.
That's always Mr. Philip King. This is my husband, y'all. I love him. He is so good to me. He's behind the scenes.
He's behind the scenes. Okay, we should thank you once again.
Thank you.
And God bless you and keep doing what you're doing.
Bless you.
All right.
Thank you for tuning in. Join us each and every Sunday at 6 p.m. on WCLN 1170 AM.
You're an expert now.
Channel 16 cable TV. Start